This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the 2020 iPhone SE, otherwise known as the iPhone SE2, or some people call it the iPhone 9. A lot of names for one little phone. So, not too long ago, Apple refreshed the MacBook Air, their most affordable laptop, and made it not such a bad deal. But with the iPhone SE, it starts at $399. And that's actually a really good deal. We're going to look at it now. So what does $399 get you? 64 gigs of storage, which is the same as you would get on an iPhone 11. Not bad there. The Apple A13 Bionic CPU, again, the same that you would get on an iPhone 11 Pro, Pro Max, and 11. You get the idea. Nice for the price. This is currently the A13 is the fastest mobile phone chip on the market. Sorry, Qualcomm and Snapdragon. It is true. You also get updated LTE. So if you're thinking about finding an iPhone 8 and buying that, well, I would suggest getting this one instead. You get gigabit LTE. You get band 71 coverage for T-Mobile, which is a nice thing to have. The casing obviously is the iPhone 8, so the look isn't any different there. The camera module may or may not be identical. It's pretty close, but with the new CPU and the new image processing software that Apple has, it's certainly going to blow the previous iPhone SE away, and to my eye does a little bit better than the original iPhone 8, which wasn't a slouch as cameras go. It is just a single lens. It's a 12 megapixel camera on the rear, so there's no wide angle, there's no telephoto. It does have portrait mode. It only does portrait mode on people. Sorry, cats, dogs, and other things. You could use third-party software to get around that, but I have noticed that when taking portrait-like shots of my cat and flowers and other things, that it does have a kind of natural bokeh effect in the background anyway. So you also don't get night mode, which is too bad. So if you're into night shots, this might not be your first choice for a camera. But overall, I was pretty impressed with the camera and how competent it is. Of course, like again, the iPhone 8 was a pretty good camera phone in its day, but there are definitely tweaks to the image processing and all that sort of thing, because these photos are looking pretty darn good, certainly for this price range. For video recording, it does have optical image stabilization, but it's not as good as the latest models from Apple or even the iPhone X family of phones. I could see some movement and bobbling as opposed to the impossibly smooth-looking video that you get from the latest iPhones. Again, that's fair for the price. You can shoot 4K video up to 60 frames per second. It can do slow motion video at 240 frames per second. The usual stuff, pretty much like the iPhone 8 could do. Just like other recent iPhones, it supports the HEVC, more efficient video recording codec, takes up less space, still good quality, and also the HEIF format. It's a new format for JPEG replacement if you wish to use that as well. And as ever, there's always iCloud. So if your phone starts running out of space, it can automatically just shift stuff up to the cloud and bring it back down when you want to reference it. But if you're a big-time video shooter, again, go for that 128 gig model to make sure you got some cushion there. Front camera is 7 megapixels. It looked a little more hazy and a little less defined to me versus something like the iPhone XR or the iPhone 11. It is what it is. It's decent. It's not class-leading. It's not priced like a class-leading phone. We have Qi wireless charging on board if that's your thing, and also the phone has a little bit more memory than the iPhone 8 had. It has 3 gigs of RAM versus 2 gigs on the iPhone 8. So if you're talking about memory, if you're talking about storage options versus the past SE, it's a huge jump ahead. The screen is also bigger at 4.7 inches. It's still Apple's Retina resolution, which means 326 ppi. The resolution is a little higher than the previous iPhone SE because the screen is bigger. The old one was only 4 inches. So yes, this phone's a little bigger than the previous iPhone SE, but by today's standards, it's darn tiny. When I picked it up, I was like, oh my God, it's so small. Granted, I do prefer big screen phones. This wouldn't be the phone for me as a result, but I know a lot of people actually prefer a smaller phone in their pocket, in their hand, not to mention the price tag. By the way, if you do want more storage, you can go up to 128 gigs. That's $50 more. Not a bad deal, that one. And if you want to go up to 256 gigs, then it's $550. At that point, I might start looking at an iPhone 11. The display on this is not OLED, it is IPS, just like iPhones of old, but it's a very nice looking display. You don't look at it and think, oh, it's drab. It actually looks quite nice. It's wide gamut P3. It has a good 1400:1 contrast ratio. The brightness isn't great compared to the iPhone 11 family of phones, but I guess that's fair for $399. So this does around 625 nits of brightness versus over 1,000 on the iPhone 11 family, or even the XS and XS Max. So if you use it outdoors in bright sunlight a lot, that's something to keep in mind. It is still visible. I had no problem seeing it, but it wasn't as easy to see. The phone is technically dual SIM because it has an eSIM and a nano SIM card slot. So if one of your two carriers supports eSIM, you can use it with two SIMs. It's also IP67 water resistant, which means down to 1 meter or 3 feet of water for up to 30 minutes. For those of you who are into fast wired charging, it does support 18-watt fast wired charging, just like the iPhone 11 family, but of course, just like the iPhone 11 family, the fast charger is not in the box, just the standard small charger, so that's an extra spend. It has Touch ID, obviously, and not Face ID, so for those of you who are more comfortable with that, there you go. The gestures are, of course, different. It was a little trip down memory lane to remember that you swipe up from the bottom to get to Control Center. You use the Touch ID button for multitasking, that sort of thing. It does have Apple Pay, NFC, Wi-Fi 6, which is another upgrade versus, say, buying an iPhone 8 instead. It might be a little guy, but the stereo speakers are pretty good. I mean, Apple typically does a good job with these. So you have one in the earpiece up top and one on the bottom for stereo sound. Not bad at all. There is no headphone jack. We are talking Apple, and there hasn't been one for quite some time with them. You have the Lightning connector on the bottom. So wireless headphones or Lightning 2 3.5 millimeter adapters, which you're going to need if you want to use wired 3.5 millimeter headphones on this. The battery life on this is pretty much just like the iPhone 8. No surprise, 1800 milliamps, which is just what the iPhone 8 had. Different connector, though, on the battery, which is interesting if you were to take it apart and service it. For most people, probably would like to moderate use. This is an all-day phone. Charge it by 10 o'clock at night. If you're going to use it heavily, not so much. Compared to the iPhone 11, even though this is a smaller, lower resolution display, I found it didn't have as much stamina. But again, something this teeny, you can only fit so much battery in, it's fair for the price, and I think most people will do okay going through a day. When it comes to high quality with a fast processor, a pretty nice display, a decent camera kind of phones in this size range and in this price range, there's very little competition. The Pixel 3, the last generation Pixel, comes to mind, and if photography is really your thing, then that is still a solid buy there. It's going to be a little bit bigger though, but hey, other than that, not a lot. I have to say, but Apple, even if there were competition, I think that they have done a very good job with this phone. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos. Hit that notification bell and like if you did like the vid.